Welcome back, welcome back, good evening, and welcome to Humanist TV Africa, where we shall be bringing you hot news headlines around the world, around Africa and the world. So stay with me. Yes, the first on our news headline today is from Vanguard News. The first report from Vanguard News: my hero is gone. Emeka Ike mourns more. This is coming from Vanguard News. Emeka Ike is a Nigerian actor. He's a Nigerian actor, producer. He lost his mom and the moms. Yes, that is on the first news. The second news: aunties, neighbors called me bastard because I was born out of rape. Helen Paul. This is from Vanguard News. Helen Paul is a Nigerian comedian. She has come out to explain that aunties, neighbors called her bastard because she was born out of wedlock. Let's move on to the next news. Next news: rape scandal. Rape scandal. Suspend ranking teacher. Alumni tells the state government. This is coming from Daily Trust News. Suspend ranking teacher. Alumni tells Ogun state government. Okay, let's go over to the next news. Korean envoy to Nigerians. Democracy needs patience. Compromise. This is coming from Daily Times News. Korean envoy, Korean ambassador have told the Nigerians to be patient, that democracy requires patience. Over to the next news. Court stops Nigerian Labour Congress, Nigerian trade union from embarking on November 14th strike. This is coming from Daily Times Nigeria. Court stops Nigerian Labour Congress. So yes. Okay, over to the next news. Everything moves out of 2026 World Cup qualifiers. This is coming from Blueprint newspaper. The report from Blueprint newspaper. Yes, everything moves out of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Thank you. Over to the next news. Israel must stop killing babies, women in Gaza. French President Macron supports ceasefire. From the concerned reporters, it reports that Israel must stop killing women in Gaza. So yes, I want your comment on this. Do you think he's right? Oh yes, do you agree with President Macron? You agree with President Macron, the French president, that Israel should stop killing babies, women in Gaza. All right, let's go to the next news. Let's go to the next news on the headlines. Oh yes, let's go to the next news. Go back to the next news. Next news, that is that soldiers block roads leading to Kogi Governor Yahya Bello's hometown place. Journalists, observers. You know, there have been election in Imo State, Kogi, and Biafra State of Nigeria. So Sarah reporters report that soldiers block entrance to the homeland of the governor. So let's go over to our respected Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka. Our respected Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka says internet culture creating new generation of illiterates in Nigeria. This is coming from Salah Reporters. Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka says internet culture creating new generation of illiterates in Nigeria. That is from Wole Soyinka, a Nobel laureate and also an acclaimed humanist patriot in Nigeria. So let's go back to the religious news, the world news, and also the religious news. Pope Francis fires US bishop after his sin of papacy. Yes. Let's go back again to Francis Pius, U.S. Bishop, over criticism of leadership and Catholic Church reform. Let's go to another important news. Oh yes, another important news has it that over 80 people arrested in UK. Over 80 people arrested in UK as UK police clashed with protesters during pro-Palestinian demonstration in London. Over 80 people arrested as UK police clashed with protesters during pro-Palestinian demonstration in London. All right, over to the next news. LASTMA, which is Lagos Traffic Agency, arrest the reckless driver over death. We shall come back to that. Let's go back to Israel. Confirms killing Hamas fighter. We held 1,000 Gaza residents who stayed in hospital. Israel confirms killing Hamas fighter who held 1,000 Gaza residents who stayed in hospital. Okay, let's go over to the news. Over to the next news. Israel will not stop war in Gaza until we eliminate Hamas. Prime Minister insists amid condemnation. Remember that President Macron of France, the French president, have advised the Israeli government to stop killing babies and women and embrace a ceasefire. So this morning, the Prime Minister of Israel, in response to that, says Israel will not stop war in Gaza until we eliminate Hamas. But the problem is, the question is really Hamas that we're eliminating? Why go after women and children? Yes, you can go after Hamas without killing women and children, especially babies, is so pathetic. Yes, that was a wisdom I got from Merchant of Venice. You don't, yes, the Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. You go after the people that are after you. Yes, if you want me to obey you through pound of flesh, don't ensure that there is no other ingredient that you are getting. Just get your pound of flesh. So if you think you are fighting the terrorists or the alleged terrorists, Hamas, go after Hamas and stop going after women and children. So, all right, let's take the news headline one after the other. Let's have the news. Let's have the reports coming from the French President Macron, Emmanuel Macron, French president. Let's get his report. Let's get the report of a French president and women.
US or the UK.
Israel must stop killing babies and women in Gaza. Emmanuel Macron told the BBC in an exclusive interview at the Élysée Palace that there was no justification for the bombing, saying that a ceasefire would benefit Israel. While recognising Israel's right to protect itself, he said, "We do urge them to stop this bombing in Gaza." He's been speaking to the BBC's Europe editor, Katya Adler.
We've had weeks of aid organisations sounding the alarm about Gaza, and so you've now said that humanitarian pauses in fighting aren't enough and there needs to be work towards a ceasefire. Are you disappointed that other world leaders aren't joining you in that call, like the US or the UK?
No, I hope they will. And let's be clear, I mean, I was one of the first leaders to call Prime Minister and President of Israel after the terrorist attack, the 7th of October. We clearly condemn this terrorist attack and this terrorist group and recognize the right of Israel to protect itself and react. But day one, we say that this reaction and the fight against terrorism, because it is led by a democracy, should be compliant with international rules, rule of war and humanitarian international law. And day after day, what we saw is a permanent bombing of civilians in Gaza. And I think it's very important to say the whole story. But I think this is the only solution we have. This is fighting. Because it's impossible to explain. We want to fight against terrorism by killing innocent people.
You've talked about the fight against terrorism needing to be merciless, is the word you used, but not without rules. And you've just referred there to the high loss of civilian life in Gaza. Do you think Israel is respecting those rules, the international rules that you're referring to?
Look, in the very first days, it's clear that the emotion, the compassion, created a situation where everybody was just close to Israel and backing them and sharing the pain. And we do share their pain, and we do share the willingness to get rid of terrorism. We know what terrorism means.
All right, let me have your take on that. For me, I think I agree with the French President Emmanuel Macron. Yes, it is proper. Yeah, sometimes conflict may ensue. Like I explained earlier, humans are the agent of conflict. Wherever there is humans, there must be conflict, but we must obey some rules of engagement. We must obey some international humanitarian law. Both international and local humanitarian laws leans against making women and children victims of war, conflict they never caused. Remember the Hamas. Remember the Hamas that you allege are terrorists and that you are going against. Quite all right. Are not the victims of these wars, are not the women and babies that are being trapped in the hospitals. So I agree with President Macron that you should obey humanitarian laws and ceasefire. Even if you're not gonna cease fire, you have to make sure you don't commit war crimes, because touching babies, killing babies and women. I'm not addressing Israel alone. I'm addressing the two warring parties. Targeting women and children is a war crime. According to ICC, the Roman Statute establishing ICC, such conduct amounts to, is tantamount to war crime, to crime against humanity. You know, ICC, International Criminal Court, was established to prosecute and try cases of war crimes, of crimes against humanity, of genocide. So it is. Oh yes, it is realistic to conflict. It is realistic for human beings, for neighbors to from time to time have problems. Though I am not saying there should be problems, but problems, conflicts are inevitable. Conflicts are inevitable in a human society. If you are a friend of peace and conflict studies, you will understand that as far as humanity is concerned, as far as human beings are concerned, in human development, in human relationship, there must be conflict. But I urge our people, whenever there is conflict, to obey the rules of engagement, and not go against international humanitarian laws. Oh yes, I agree with the French president. You have to cease fire, stop committing genocide, stop crime against humanity, stop war crimes. I am not only addressing Israel. Israel is not in this alone. I'm addressing the warring parties, both Israel and Hamas. But what baffles me a bit is that Hamas is not actually the ones bearing the brunt of the war. It is women and children. And those saying Israel deal with them should also understand that it is not always easy. It's not always the people that cause the war that become victims of war. Oh yes. The people that are the cause of the war may not actually be the victims. It's always the situation that some people may cause war, maybe for their selfish interest or for good reasons. But for a fact, I've understood that the people that cause the war, the causers of the war, are not often the victims. So I agree with Macron, and I also condemn what what the Israeli Prime Minister says, that he will not stop war. Oh yes, if that means that you will not stop war unless you get to the real culprit, go to the real culprit and not women and babies. Get to the real culprit, not looking for a pound of flesh, whereas blood is still added to the pound of flesh. If you can get your pound of flesh without blood getting involved, blood is not pound of flesh. If you can get your pound of flesh without opening the skin, it's okay. But it is difficult for you to get pound of flesh without opening the wounds. So we have to look for a better peaceful means of resolving our conflicts instead of resorting to war. It is better we resolve our conflicts in a peaceful and an amicable way instead of resorting to war, because the victims of wars are not usually the people that caused it, are not usually the instigators of war. So I agree with the French president that there should be ceasefire, and I also disagree with the Israeli Prime Minister, because I know for sure that you cannot get to the people you seek without maiming, without victimizing, without getting to innocent women and babies, without getting to people that never caused the war. Oh yes, sometimes logically I've seen war as an appeal to hasty generalization, in the sense that it's not everyone that the heat of the war are grounding, the heat of the war are dealing with, that caused the war. Most of them may be up against. Take for instance the agitations going on in Amazonia. Let us assume the French government is. I'm not saying the agitation is wrong, but there are some persons, due to the fact that right to self-determination is a fundamental right, some persons may decide not to exercise such right. So some persons may decide not to exercise those rights, and some sects may decide to exercise the rights. What if the government gets provoked, the Cameroonian government gets provoked and declare a civil war in Amazonia and kill both the people that are agitating and the people that are not agitating? It can happen anywhere. So those that are saying Israel, Hamas cause problem, kill Palestinians, you are not getting it right, because if accidentally your society or coincidentally your society gets into such situation, you may actually be a victim. That is why I'm calling for ceasefire. I'm also calling for peace. The ICC, I agree, is the solution, because the International Criminal Court, established under the Roman Statute of 1601, is solely established for this. So the world can actually come together and use the ICC. Let the ICC become proactive for once. Yes, ICC, the activities of ICC has left much to be desired. So they can actually wake up from their slumber and for the first time make sure that we get to peace. Make sure that we get to peace in such a way that surviving the peace will not be difficult for us. Let's go over to the another important news that we are to analyze. Another important news, play the report, the producer, another important news that we are up to analyze. Over to you, the producer.
The ceasefire. Just as the United States would not agree to a ceasefire after the bombing of Pearl Harbor or after the terrorist attack of 9/11, Israel will not agree to a cessation of hostilities with Hamas after the horrific attacks of October 7th. Calls for a ceasefire are calls for Israel to surrender to Hamas, to surrender to terrorism, to surrender to barbarism. That will not happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible says that there is a time for peace and a time for war. This is a time for war, a war for our common future. Today we draw a line between the forces of civilization and the forces of barbarism. It is a time for everyone to decide where they stand. Israel will stand against the forces of barbarism until victory.
Well, there are two things that I got from that report coming from the Israeli Prime Minister. He's, making reference in his action, he's making reference to the action of the United States of America. But I am telling you that two wrongs do not make right. Because United States choose to do some nefarious act, doesn't mean you should toe that line. I keep saying it, those supporting war are not good logicians. Yes, look at, he just made a fallacious statement, the fallacy of two kwekwe in logic. You too, you are wrong. So since United States did that, is right. Yes, we all know that the United States from time immemorial have done a lot of mayhem. Oh yes, in the name of being world power, they have done a lot of unspeakable violation of human rights, though they are claiming to be human rights defenders. We are not ignorant of that. So are you saying since United States is fond of doing that it is proper for you to kill babies and women? No, you don't do that. It's not possible for you to possibly say, since you do this, since this is this, this is that, since United States have committed some wrong, that justifies your wrong. Another point I brought out from the Israeli Prime Minister that is funny is that people use religion, people use some biblical injunction to justify some of their actions, some of their wicked act. Yes, you don't, because you don't use some of the versions of the Bible that justify some of your action. You join this as a justification for crime against humanity. Oh yes, over times I have to comment about this. People have used religion to bully. People have used religion to promote hypocrisy. People have used religion to promote brutalization or forms of suppression and depression. If you come to Nigeria, people have used religion to justify killings. Take for instance what happened last year. An innocent Christian girl called Deborah Samuel was gruesomely murdered in the name of religion. You can imagine it was undergraduate of a college of education that did that. So I call on the world to stop using religion to sanction evil. Enough is enough. Look at what he did in justification of his action, killing women and babies, committing war crimes. He called upon, he cited a verse from his scriptures. People should stop using Torah, Quran, Bible to justify their menaces. Even the war in Hamas, I feel the Hamas people, the people that triggered the first fire, the shot, what inspired them was their religion. So people should stop. I'm not only addressing the Israeli, I'm not biased. My work as a panelist, as a consensus objector, is to address things irrespective of who it affects, irrespective of who may feel bad about my criticism. Is none of my business. I'm here to analyze objectively. I'm not addressing the Israeli government alone. I'm addressing the people that have caused the war. Ceasefire and stop using religion to justify the menaces of war. War against humanity, war crimes. No, say no to war. Let's embrace the love for humanity and understand that irrespective of your religion, your culture, the society you come from, your race, your tribe, you are so important. One important thing about all of us is that we are humans. So we have to be humanistic in our approach and stop using religion to justify injustice, to justify war, to justify suppression, to justify oppression. No. Let's say the truth. Let's be objective. You can conflict, but in defense of your conflict, what if you are called upon by the International Criminal Court to justify your actions? You go and be quoting for them. Yes, maybe most of them can key into that, because the conscience of the world have been truncated, have been ruined by religiosity, by religious sentiment. Yes, I heard some persons from Nigeria citing Israel because of thinking that Israel is the holy place of Christians. But sometimes I laugh at their lack of knowledge of history. Israeli people are mostly Judaists. They are not even Christians. Oh yes, you may use what have been written to justify it, but I tell you that most of them don't. But I'm not saying you should not, because they are not Christians, you should not condemn when a mayhem is being done to them. No. What I'm saying is, instead of taking side, you analyze the war objectively and call for peace and ceasefire. My major problem is that the people that are victims of this war are often innocent. Yes, I've seen situations when I was when I was in school as an undergraduate. Some persons will do riot. Oh yes, and destroy some gadgets, some school gadgets, and everyone will be meant to pay for other people's malicious destructions. You see, sometimes when you strike, when you try to retaliate a wrong done, you may succeed, not retaliating against the actual culprit. You retaliate against innocent people. So that is why I am calling on the world to be humanistic in thinking. I think the only thing that can serve as an alternative to this war that is steeped in war, bigotry, hypocrisy, pretentious peace, is being humanistic in approach, understanding that irrespective of whoever you think, whatever belief you may hold, that you are a human being, whether you are black or yellow. Yes, it is quite misleading that people will say that someone is white. There is nobody that is white. We have yellow-skinned people and black-skinned and even brown-skinned. So there is nobody that is white. If you call anybody white, in fact, if a human being turns white, it's a sign of death. It's a sign of abnormality. So nobody is actually white. But let me say, whether you are brown, yellow, or black, we are the same, because we are all humans born free. So we should respect one another's opinion. We should uphold mutual tolerance. If you like, you can be a Christian, insofar you don't infringe on the right of others. You can be a Muslim, insofar you let peace to be. You can be a traditionalist, it's your business. But you shouldn't use this thing to justify maiming, to justify mayhem, to justify inhumanity to humanity. We should uphold humanism. We should be humanistic in our approach to life, because that sense of humanity is what should prevail. Let the love for humanity always prevail. So let's go over to the next top news we are up to analyze today. Over 80 people arrested. Over 80 people arrested as UK police clash with protesters during pro-Palestinian demonstration in London. I want us to get the report. The report where it is reported that
across the UK, today's pro-Palestine protests took many forms. Some groups blocked train stations like here in Edinburgh and London's Charing Cross. But however, and wherever people chose to take part, many carried the same message.
We want to see an immediate ceasefire. We want to see food, water, medical supplies, electricity into Gaza right now.
I'm here to protest against the killing of children, against the killing of families, the killing of innocent civilians.
Organisers had urged protesters to stay local, but London's protests drew big crowds. The Metropolitan Police confirmed there had been arrests. One protester was detained for having a placard that could incite hatred. In Manchester, protesters were ringed by a strong police presence.
There have been protests like this one in cities across the UK now for several weeks, and when you look around you see various political activists, but there's also people here with families. Many have come with young children, and a lot of them have the same message, that they want the UK government to push now for a ceasefire.
Come to support the Palestinians, because it's wrong that 2,000 years ago you could take revenge on somebody, but now this is not the way to do it.
Israel has the right to defend itself, but this is something else. There's defence, and then there's going in there and just slaughtering people.
It's actually really emotional because you see little children, because I've got a little brother, and I put myself in their shoes, and I feel the pain.
Here, some use this controversial slogan as a call to end Israeli occupation of the West Bank. But for many Jewish groups, it's deeply anti-Semitic at a time of huge sensitivity and worry for UK Jewish communities.
There are plenty of Jews who are very concerned, distraught, devastated by what they're seeing with the death toll and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and they understand people wanting to rally around that or to support Palestinian civilians. But that's not all that these protests seem to be about. It can sometimes feel very confusing for us as Jews as to what exactly they are rallying behind. Is it just to support the Palestinian cause, which, by the way, I support, and I actually work with Palestinian colleagues in Israel who are doing some of that work for human rights for Palestinians, or is it really a sense of hatred?
For now, there is no sign of these protests dwindling in number or intensity, with a larger gathering concentrated in London planned for over Remembrance Weekend. Katerina Potocki, Sky News.
All right. Do you think, the viewers, the UK government was right for arresting peaceful protesters, for arresting protesters? You think they are right? I want your comment on that. You think they are right? Well, I was thinking it was only in Nigeria here where peaceful protest is often disrupted. Yes, on the last report, I reported something about regarding the president of Labour Union of Nigeria that was beaten for leading a protest. So funny. It's quite unfortunate. I was thinking that it's only here in West Africa, in Nigeria, that peaceful protesters have been arrested. I don't know. I don't think what those people are protesting. People have right to expression. What those people are protesting against is actually wrong. They are calling for peace. They are calling for ceasefire. So you shouldn't arrest protesters. It's also something bad that we have everywhere, that, you know, the political class have hijacked everything. Even people no longer have fundamental right to expression. Everyone is afraid now because the problem is not freedom of speech, it is now freedom after speech. Oh yes, as a person that speaks, you don't even know when you may be targeted for speaking out. Oh yes. So the world must stop taking biased stand and stand for peace and be objective in their stand. So the viewers, I want you to drop your comments. What do you think about the action of the UK government? What do you think about their actions? What do you think about the actions of the UK government? Could this be bias? Could this be that they are siding war instead of peace? Could this be? Why is it that the United Nations have not taken a proactive stand after making the last speech? Could it be? Could it be that they are just giving lip services? Could it be? Because a lot of war or crimes against humanity have been committed without the United Nations doing anything. Could the United Nations continue to be a toothless bulldog, or are they gonna start now to be proactive, to be fair? Because I see United Nations as an organization that is not sincere to themselves. Given that up till we speak now, there is no African state that is a permanent member in the Security Council. Quite unfortunate. I think the problem starts from here, that we are not even sincere to ourselves, that we are pretentious and hypocritical in our takes. All right, let's go over to the next headline, hot headline, before we have a recap then and conclude today's edition. Pope Francis fires. All right, let's get the report. Let's get the report. Wow, this is soldiers blocking roads leading to Kogi Governor Yahaya Bello's residence, and there is delay to journalists and observers. Soldiers blocks the way that leads to Yahaya Bello's homeland. You know, in so doing, they block some journalists and persons that went to observe the 2023 election in Kogi State of Nigeria. Like I explained earlier, there is election in Kogi. There is election in Imo State. There is also election in Bayelsa State. Oh yes, and it is as a lot of this that this report is coming, that the soldiers, I don't know why the soldiers and the other security operatives keep violating the post right. Keeps acting, I don't understand. I don't know what to use and qualify them. But we should stop this. We should allow people to have their right to freedom of movement. Election is not war. I don't know why in West Africa, in Africa, election is always war. I don't know why. I don't know why. All right, let's go over to the other news. Pope Francis firing a controversial bishop. Pope Francis of Catholic Church firing a controversial bishop. Let me have the news. Let me have the news headline. The newspaper headline. Yes. Okay, this is a news recap. All right. Yes, Pope Francis fires U.S. bishop after criticism of Papacy's leadership and Catholic Church reform. This is serious. Oh yes. you can imagine. I wonder what makes religion, what makes the church different from a business enterprise. Anyone that is not working in accordance with the business proposal is often fired. Tell me what is different. What is the difference between this and business enterprise? Sometimes I ask my people, what is the difference between religion and enterprises? What is the difference? Is it advertisement? Yes. Is your crusade not a form of advertisement? What? Is it a proliferation of churches or religion? Yes, that is how business ventures does. When you think, when you think you arrive to establish your business, you start your business. That is also why a person will hate you for using his religious denomination and going to another denomination. They will automatically hate you for no just cause. That is what we have here, especially in Africa. And it's also everywhere. The Roman Catholic Church Pope have confirmed this. All right, okay. Let's go for a news recap. That is for them. It's for them. I just want my role is to actually give you an objective report of what is happening around the world. Okay, let's go on news recap. Let's go on news recap. On news recap. Let us recap the headlines. After that, we shall come to the end of the program. My hero is gone. Emeka Ike, months. This is coming from Daily Trust. Okay. Another report has it. Auntie's neighbors called me pastor because I was born out of rape. Okay, that is coming from Helen Paul, a Nigerian female comedian. Okay, another one, rape scandal, suspend Randy teacher, alumni tells Ogun State government. All right, let's go to the next headline. Next headline. Korean envoy to Nigerians, democracy needs patience, compromise. I wonder how long we shall have patience and compromise. But anyway, that is the story for another day. The viewers, I need to have your response. I need to have your comments. I need to have your comment on that. Korean envoy say to Nigerians that democracy needs patience and compromise. The viewers, I want your comment on it. All right, over to the next news, over to the next headline. Court stops NLC, that is Nigeria Labour Congress, TUC, that is trade union, from embarking on November 14th strike. Recall that the Labour Union of Nigeria have been protesting against the hike in everything. Immediately after the current government of Tinubu entered seats, they have been hiking everything. Very soon there will be hiking death rates. So they have decided to protest. Okay, let's go back to this. There will be push out of 2026 World Cup qualifiers. This is coming from Blueprint newspaper. All right, this is a sports news coming from Blueprint newspaper. Eritrea pulls out of 2026 World Cup qualifiers. All right, over to the next headline. Israel must stop killing babies, women in Gaza. French President Macron supports ceasefires from reporters. Thank you, President Emmanuel Macron, for this. Thank you for this. Let's go for the next news. Let's go for the next news headline. Soldiers block roads leading to journalists, observers. All right, this is coming. Soyinka, sorry for the short break. Nobel laureate Soyinka says internet culture creating new generation of illiterates in Nigeria. This is coming from Sahara Reporters. All right, over to the next news. Over to the next news. This is Wole Soyinka, the patron of humanity in Nigeria. All right, to the next headline. Pope Francis fires U.S. bishop after criticism of Papacy's leadership. Catholic Church reform. All right, over the next news. LASTMA, that is Lagos State of Nigeria Traffic Agency. LASTMA arrest reckless motorists over death of pedestrians in lone accident. Sorry, this is coming from Sahara Reporters. But the next news. All right, over 80 people arrested as UK government clashed with protesters during pro-Palestinian demonstration in London. This is from Sahara Reporters. All right, over to the next news. Let's have the next news. Okay, over to the next news. All right, Israel confirms killing Hamas fighter who held 1,000 Gaza residents hostage in hospital. All right, this is a report coming from CNN. All right, let's go to the next news. And also, Sahara Reporters has the news. Israel will not stop war in Gaza until we eliminate Hamas. This is coming from Prime Minister. The Prime Minister of Israel insists amid condemnation. You know, the French government have condemned killing babies and women, have condemned war crimes. So in reaction to that, Israel Prime Minister says Israel will not stop war in Gaza until we eliminate Hamas. And I say, go after Hamas, leave women and babies. Leave women and babies. Let the poor breathe. That is from the president of the current president of Nigeria, Ahmed Tinubu. He says, "Let the poor breathe." All right, we are right back. This is Humanist TV on the shootings of Humanist Advocate. So I want to know what you think about the headlines. You think Israel should continue the war? You think if they continue the war, that they should continue killing babies and women? So what do you think? I want your comment too. I want to comment on the news headlines. All right. Thank you, the viewers. Thank you, the producer. Thank you. I remain Obasi Ikechukwu. Thank you. See you in another edition of our newspaper reports. I remain a panelist. I'm one of the directors of Humanist TV Africa. And I'm also the director of advocacy, Humanist Advocacy Network. Yes, a Nigerian-based advocacy group. All right, I love you all. Hope to see you in the next edition of our show on Humanist TV, where we always reach out to humanity. In the absence of any comments, Mr. Producer, in the absence of any comment, thank you for this. Thank you for this wonderful show. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. See you in the next edition.
Africa, at least a dozen people killed today with lion police. Witnesses say some of the